Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. And this one's definitely a roller coaster. So let's begin. Let me introduce myself first. My name's Lawrence. Now before we dive into the story, I've got to tell you that marrying into the wrong family is the worst thing that can happen to any man. I know it sounds harsh, but hear me out. When you marry someone, you're not just marrying them. You're marrying their entire family. And trust me, if that family is toxic, it can turn your life upside down in ways you never saw coming. Let me take you back and show you how all this started. I remember when I first met Gloria. She was kind, intelligent, and stunning. We clicked right away, and it didn't take long before I realized she was the one I wanted to be with. After dating for 2 years, we got married. It felt like the natural progression. Everything was perfect, or so I thought. We were in love, and I felt like we had this solid foundation to build our future on. After the wedding, we decided to move to a city that was closer to her family. Gloria thought it would be good for us to be near them, especially as we started thinking about settling down more seriously, maybe even starting a family. I didn't mind. It felt like the right choice. I figured that having her family around would be a good thing for us. I could see how it might help in the long run and even make life a little easier. But what I didn't anticipate was how quickly I'd realize that I wasn't just marrying Gloria. I was marrying her entire family, and all their expectations and needs came with her. It's hard to describe just how much a lack of boundaries can break a man down, but it was happening to me every single day. Her family, without fail, would show up unannounced and with no heads up. Sometimes it was one of her cousins or her aunts, and sometimes it was her mom or dad. And when they came, they didn't just stay for a day or two. Oh no, they'd stay for weeks. It was like we had an open-door policy without ever agreeing to it. I don't mind visitors, honestly. But what I do mind is when they treat my home like a free hotel. No one ever thought about how much it costs to feed and accommodate extra people for days or weeks on end. And it wasn't like they offered to pitch in or help out. It was just expected that I'd pick up the slack. They'd show up, stay as long as they felt like it, and leave whenever they were ready. I remember one time, Gloria's aunt came over without warning. She didn't just stay a couple of days. She stayed a whole month. During that time, I had to rearrange my work schedule just to fit her in while still trying to manage my own life. And every time I mentioned how this was affecting our finances, Gloria would agree with me. She'd say, "Yeah, it's a bit much." But that was it. She never took any real action. The moment she talked to her mom, though, her whole attitude would change. Suddenly, I was the bad guy for complaining. How did that happen? I'd asked for a little respect. Just give us some space. Let us know when someone's coming over. But somehow, her family's opinion was always the deciding factor. They didn't see our marriage as something that needed boundaries. They thought they could waltz in and out whenever they pleased. And what hurt even more was watching Gloria silently let it happen, even after I'd expressed how I felt. She wouldn't stand up to them. She'd just stay quiet and go along with whatever they said. But things took a more personal turn when her mother started getting involved directly. I'd already tried talking to Gloria about how I felt. I'd expressed how it was wearing me down, the constant interruptions, the lack of respect for our home. But when I mentioned it to her mother, things got ugly. She started accusing me of being selfish and manipulative. She said I was trying to turn Gloria against her family. I was shocked. It was like I didn't have the right to ask for space in my own home. They twisted everything I said, making it sound like I was the one causing problems. And Gloria? She didn't say a word, silent as always. I began to wonder, how did I get here? How did my concerns about basic respect for our space and finances become a personal attack on her family? And the silence from Gloria? It only made it worse. Her family knew they could do whatever they wanted, because she never stepped in to stop them. She never stood up for me when they crossed the line, never spoke up when they took advantage. And that's when I started to feel like I wasn't just fighting her family, I was fighting her too. For the longest time, I tried to trust Gloria. The biggest issue I was having with her was how she handled money. I started noticing that Gloria was quietly borrowing money from our joint account. Now this was the account that we had set up with a plan to save for a down payment on our house. But instead, I began to see the balance dropping, little by little, without any clear explanation. When I asked her about it, she always had the same excuse. It was an emergency. Every single time she gave me that line, I was left wondering what those emergencies were. It didn't take long before I realized she was secretly giving the money to her family. It was always the same story. They needed it. It didn't feel right, but I kept quiet, hoping it would stop. I didn't want to seem like the bad guy. But it kept happening. The amount that was disappearing from our account was no longer small. We were supposed to be planning for our future, but instead, we were living paycheck to paycheck, all because of her family's constant demands. I knew I had to say something. So, one night, I confronted her. I asked her point blank, "What's going on with the money?" She told me it was just another emergency. I needed to help them, she said, looking guilty. But this time, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I tried to explain that to her. I told her that every time she took money without telling me, it hurt us. I wasn't angry that she wanted to help her family, but I needed her to respect our finances and our future. But the thing that broke me the most was that she didn't really hear me. Then came the Thanksgiving dinner. We were at her family's house, and it was supposed to be a time for thanks and good food. Instead, I ended up sitting there in silence, humiliated. Her parents started making sly comments about how I didn't seem generous enough to help them. The whole room watched me, with Gloria being silent. Her silence stung more than anything. I looked around the table, and all I saw were people who expected me to fix their problems without any consideration for how it affected me. I was fuming inside, thinking, how did it get to this point? Later that night, I couldn't take it anymore. I called my lawyer. I told him to get the divorce papers ready. Days after it was ready, but I asked him not to file it. Despite all of these, I loved Gloria. I kept thinking there was still hope. I tried to reach out to Gloria after that, hoping to salvage whatever was left of us. I suggested we move away, somewhere far from her family, where we could start fresh, just the two of us. I thought maybe the distance would help her see how much her family was destroying us. But she refused. She didn't even hesitate. That's when I knew. Our marriage was hanging by a thread. She was always going to choose her family over me, and that was something I couldn't accept anymore. One weekend, I was sitting on the couch, trying to unwind after a long week, when Gloria's mother called. Now, normally, I'd avoid these calls, but this time, Gloria handed me the phone before I could make an excuse. I couldn't get out of it. When I answered, she didn't even waste time on pleasantries. She went straight to business, like she always does. She asked me, flat out, to lend money to Gloria's brother. She said he needed it for something. No real details, just that it was urgent. I wasn't surprised. This wasn't the first time I'd been put in this position. But this time, I wasn't backing down. I told her as calmly as I could, I don't have any money to lend. Now at this point, I expected a little pushback. What I didn't expect was how insistent she'd get. She didn't listen to me, didn't even acknowledge what I said. Instead, she pushed harder. I know you have money. Gloria would have lent him, but she's out of cash. That's when it hit me. She thought I was the problem. She honestly believed I was holding out trying to be difficult, when in reality, I was just tired of being manipulated, tired of feeling like the ATM of the family. What she didn't know was that I had emptied the joint account. All that money that was supposed to be for our first house's down payment, it was gone. I'd told Gloria that we were investing it in gold and precious assets to protect it from inflation, and she bought it. I mean, I had to tell her something, right? The truth would have shattered her. The truth was, I couldn't stand watching her give our savings away to her family anymore. It felt like I was working my ass off day in and day out, just to fund their never-ending requests for help. I'd had enough. So, I took control of the account, drained it, and decided it was time to stop playing the fool. So here I am, on the phone with her mother, saying I don't have money, and she's insisting I do. She's not hearing me. It's like the conversation is spinning out of control. When I refused again, she hung up on me, furious. She was angry that I didn't just give in. But then the real kicker came. Later that day, Gloria spoke to her mom. And just like that, her mood changed. She walked in, her eyes narrowing at me like I had just committed a crime. "You insulted my mom just because she asked for help," she said, her voice shaking. I was stunned. I didn't even know how to respond. I watched as they tried to gaslight me, and for a second, I couldn't believe it. I was done. I had had enough. That moment made it clear I couldn't keep living like this. So I called my lawyer again, this time to file the divorce papers legally. There was no going back. I didn't owe anyone anything anymore, especially not her family. And honestly, I was relieved. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and I finally felt like I could breathe again. A few days after that call, Gloria's family reached out and invited me over. At first, I wasn't surprised. They had been quiet for a couple of days, probably plotting their next move. And honestly, I wasn't about to back out. I knew what they were trying to do, but this time was different. You know, I had already filed for the divorce. The papers were signed, and I had them with me. I was walking into this meeting prepared to end it. When I arrived at their house, there were no pleasantries, no awkward small talk. It was straight to business, and it didn't take long for them to show their cards. Her mother, always the one to orchestrate these things, wasted no time. Without hesitation, she declared that they were having a family vote to pressure me into lending Gloria's brother money. Now, if I had any doubts before about how manipulative her family had become, they vanished in that moment. They didn't even try to pretend to care about my position. They just assumed I'd cave. And you know what? They all raised their hands, one after another, with that smug, confident look on their faces, like they had already won. "Majority rules," her mother said with a grin, clearly thinking she had me cornered. Gloria sat there, not saying a word. I could see the discomfort on her face, but that was all. I just looked around the room, met everyone's eyes, and then, slowly, I smiled back. I leaned forward, took a deep breath, and said, "Then let's vote on something else." Everyone's eyes followed me as I pulled out the divorce papers and placed them on the table, right in front of them. The smirks that were there a second ago disappeared, replaced with shock and disbelief. And then, chaos. Her mother started shouting. "You can't be serious," she yelled. The others started talking over each other, demanding answers, calling me everything from crazy to irrational. It was like a room full of people who had been playing chess, only to realize the game was over and they hadn't even realized they were losing. But me? I stayed calm. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I had already made my decision. I wasn't leaving without making sure they understood exactly where I stood. Gloria was speechless, and honestly, I don't even know if it was because she was shocked. Her parents were furious. They couldn't understand why I'd do something like this. They wanted answers, demanded to know why I was giving up on the marriage, just because they asked for a little help. That's the thing. To them, this was about money, about a loan. But to me, this was about respect. I wasn't giving up on the marriage. I was simply refusing to keep putting myself in a situation where I wasn't even considered. Finally, I turned to Gloria and told her to sign it, pushing the divorce papers closer to her. "And come, pack your things. I'm leaving town, and I want the owner of our house to have his house back." She didn't respond. She didn't even look up. She just kept staring at the papers. I stood up, and as I walked out of that house, I couldn't help but reflect on everything. We didn't have kids, thank God. If we had, I might have stayed longer and tried harder. But looking back, I kept asking myself, why did I put up with this for so long? I thought I could handle it, that I could make it work. But the truth is, I had been lying to myself. I wish I had done this earlier. I wish I had ended it before it got this bad. But, hey, hindsight is 20/20ths. Gloria didn't follow me home immediately, but later that night she started calling and texting like her life depended on it. At first, I ignored her. I had nothing left to say. But she didn't stop. Long messages poured in, voice notes filled with apologies, and calls that I let ring until my phone practically overheated. She now wants to fix things, scrambling to keep our marriage from crumbling. Funny how people only fight for you when they realize you're serious about leaving. The next day, she showed up and knocked like she wasn't sure I'd open the door. When I did, she looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept. I let her inside. Then she finally told me she was willing to move. If leaving is what it takes to save our marriage, then I'll go with you. I should have felt something. Relief, maybe. But all I felt was emptiness. Where was this energy when I was begging her to put us first? Now, she was suddenly willing to do what I asked. No, it was too late. I told her exactly that. It's too late, Gloria. This marriage is over. She shook her head, her eyes welling up. We can fix this. We can start over. Gloria, you stood there and watched them try to vote me into submission. You sat there while your family treated me like an outsider in my own marriage. And now, because I'm done, suddenly you care? No, I don't trust you anymore. And without trust, what's left? She had no response, just tears. But crying wasn't going to fix this. I loved her, but love isn't enough when your partner doesn't have your back. And if this whole mess taught me anything, it's that marrying the wrong family is worse than marrying the wrong person. You don't just deal with them on holidays. You deal with them every single day through the person you married. Lastly, I learned the hard way that ignoring red flags doesn't make them disappear. It only lets them grow until they strangle you. Looking back, I don't even blame her family. They were who they were from the start. The real mistake was mine. I saw the warning signs, but I convinced myself I could handle it. I told myself things would get better, that love was enough. It wasn't. By the time I accepted that, I had wasted years of my life trying to fight a battle I should have never been in. But I'm done now, and I've got nothing but peace. And that's my story. What do you guys think? Have you ever dealt with in-laws like this? Have you ever been in a relationship where love just wasn't enough? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. See you in the next one.